What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are having a great Tuesday. Today's Tuesday, March 19th, and I appreciate y'all tuning in. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Mark. I'm a local Denver native here, born and raised into Broncos country, a huge sports fan, huge Broncos, Nuggets, and Avs fan, but really just a ginormous fan of sports in general. And I really wanted to create this channel to bring you guys some raw, uncut footage. You won't see any edits or anything fancy, just some straight to the point content. And really have a lot of my viewers and a lot of random listeners, people I've never met before, get on the show and let's have a debate. Let's talk about some things. Let's get some different perspectives from just general everyday people like you and me. So I appreciate you guys tuning in and hope you guys are having a great day. So we'll get right into it today. What I really wanted to focus on and some of the content that I wanted to share with you all today is maybe some trade up and some trade down scenarios in this draft. I know it's a hot topic. You have basically half of Broncos country saying we should look to trade back and accumulate picks. And you have other parts of Broncos country that are like, move up, be aggressive, mortgage the future if there's a guy that you love. And then I guess there's some people that are in the middle that are like, just stand pat at 12, see how the board falls, and pick BPA or take your quarterback there if it's Bo Nix or whatever. So there's just so many different scenarios. And I think that it's going to be very difficult to know exactly what they're going to do, but we can give you a little insight. So it's so funny because 5 minutes ago, Peter Schrager actually just tweeted this out, but I've said this on the channel. I've said it on my Twitter feed. By the way, it's Marky, MARCKY_sports on Twitter. If you want to give me a follow, that'd be cool. But he had said, and he had mentioned it in the past, that Sean Payton, when he was with the Saints, absolutely loved Patrick Mahomes. He was all about him. They wanted so badly to draft him. They had the 11th pick at the time, and they were jumped out of nowhere by the Kansas City Chiefs, and they ultimately selected Patrick Mahomes. And he told that story. I don't know. I don't think it was at the combine. It might have been at the end of the season presser for local news. But immediately I was thinking to myself, there's no way he's going to allow for that to happen again. I think that there's a huge lesson learned there, which is why I truly believe that if Sean Payton has fallen in love with one of these guys, he's going to go up and get him. And he's not going to do what the Vikings just did in terms of like kind of showing their hand by acquiring the the additional first round pick so early. I think that this is something that you'd want to do later because you're kind of tipping the cap a little bit. And so it put everyone else on notice. I think it was a good thing for the Broncos. But if they really wanted to move up to 4 because they felt like they needed to, I don't see a situation in which they wouldn't do that or wouldn't do whatever it took in order to make that move. I just personally don't think that that's the case. I really do think that of the quarterbacks they love, if there is one that he absolutely loves, it is Bo Nix. Probably him and JJ McCarthy, but I think he's not. They probably view them pretty even, so he's not going to mortgage the future for JJ when he could just kind of sit back at 12 or move up a couple spots in order to secure Bo Nix. So that's just my opinion, but something that I wanted to run by you guys and say and kind of preface before we get into this. So what I'm going to go ahead and do for the first time ever is I'm going to share my screen, right? Pretty excited about this. And what I'm going to do here is you're going to be able to see the PFF mock draft simulator. So I'm going to go through what I think is going to happen and some different scenarios in which, could take place and could allow for us to move up, move backwards, stand pat, or, maybe some different scenarios to kind of give you guys an idea of some different options. And then basically you guys let me know what you think is the best route for the Broncos. I'll give you my opinion, and by all means, feel free to take yours. So we'll go through it now with the Bears, and this is the first time I've ever done this, by the way. So I'm doing this off the cuff. But the obvious choice here for the Bears is going to be Caleb Williams. I think Washington is ultimately going to take a quarterback, and I think that the quarterback that they're ultimately going to take is actually Jaden Daniels. I think that's their guy, and if that's the case, then I think New England is going to go for Drake May. If not, if Jaden Daniels is the guy that New England really, really wanted, I can see them trading out of this. But I don't think that's going to happen, and I'm not going to do trade scenarios in this mock draft. I'm just going to give you some hypotheticals. But I think this is a scenario where maybe not just the Broncos can move up to 3 if they wanted to mortgage the future or give away PS2 like they should do. But I think ultimately it's going to go Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and I do think that the Patriots really do love Drake May, so I think they're going to take him. Now, the Cardinals are on the clock next. Cardinals have been long associated with taking a wide receiver, and I personally think this is where the draft really starts. This is going to be a hot pick. I think that the Cardinals are going to get a lot of phone calls. They've probably already been receiving a bunch of phone calls right here for this pick. But in this scenario, I'm going to go ahead and just make a selection. But I think that this is ultimately where the the Vikings were planning on making a move to go up. And this is another potential area where the Broncos could move up to 4. And it would take, our number 12 pick plus a future number 1 pick or plus PS2 potentially to be able to get up that far. So it's a lot, but it's something that could happen. I personally don't think that we should do it unless you're absolutely love JJ McCarthy so much, or if Drake May falls and you love him. But in this scenario, I'm going to go with Marvin Harrison Jr., even though I think that they're probably going to go with like Malik Neighbors, just a hunch. Another spot here at 5 that is it's going to be wide open. I would be absolutely shocked if the Cardinals pick at 4 and the Chargers pick at 5. I would be blown away if that was the case. So I think one of those 2 spots is going to be traded. But if not, then hey, that could be really good news for the Broncos, given how the board is going to fall. Looking at the Chargers and the way that Harbaugh wants to build the team, a lot of people are going to say, take Malik Neighbors because you just got rid of Keenan Allen. I don't think he wants to build it that way. I think that there's really 2 options here, in my opinion. I think it's either going to be Brock Bowers or Joe Alt or any of the tackles. So it could be Joe Alt or, Fuaga if they love him or Fatanu. But I think that those are going to be the options. I don't think that they're going to spend the 5th overall pick on Brock Bowers, even though he'd probably be tempted to. So I'm going to go ahead and say that they're going to take Joe Alt. Now, the Giants are an interesting one. Very, very interesting bunch because some people say they could go quarterback. Other people say no. I ultimately think that they give Drew Lock and Daniel Jones a legit opportunity to compete. They're paying a lot of money to Daniel Jones, so they're going to kind of see what they got, and they're going to try to build out their roster because their offensive roster is really bad. You think the Broncos' offensive roster is bad? The Giants one is real bad, but they did a really good job of building up their offensive and defensive lines. So a guy like Malik Neighbors makes a ton of sense there, and I think you're going to start to see a little bit of that run here coming up. The Titans are somebody that could certainly take a wide receiver. They could go in a multitude of different ways. Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, but I think that they want to continue building out their offensive line for their new quarterback, and this is a great draft to do that. So I'm going to give them Fuaga here. Another pick that absolutely shocked. Like if 4 and 5 don't get traded, you can almost bet that 8 or 9 will be. The Falcons could certainly move back, but you also have to have 2 to tango, right? So, they got their quarterback. They've actually built out some pretty good weapons around them there. So I think that the Falcons now could look, okay, let's shore up our defense. Let's make our defense better. And they could certainly go with one of these corners, or they can go with one of the edge guys. And I think that this is a place where Dallas Turner ends up getting picked. If they were to keep it. And then here go the Bears, right? So Bears have just gotten their franchise quarterback. They could easily be looking to trade this back. But man, oh man, like think about their team now is pretty loaded, right? They got Keenan Allen, they got DJ Moore. There was another receiver that they had gotten. Like they're given some pretty legitimate weapons there for Caleb Williams. And I think that this is an area where you can either shore up the O-line or you can take another guy like Brock Bowers. I mean, imagine teaming up Cole Kmet, who's really coming into his game, and then somebody like Brock Bowers. You're talking about best friends for a quarterback. But if they wanted to do it smart, which I think this is a new look Bears. I think this new Bears organization is doing a lot of really, really good things. And I think that they're going to go with the tackle as well, as crazy as that sounds. So it could be any of these guys. I'm not going to get into it, but I'm going to go ahead and give Fatanu over to the Bears. And then now the Jets, the good old Jets. The Jets recently have signed a tackle, I believe. So that could be a really, really good thing for them. I think that the thought of it's actually kind of dangerous. Like the thought of Rome Odunze with a healthy Aaron Rodgers and with Garrett Wilson on the other side is absolutely bonkers. So without a doubt, I mean, I think they would be stupid to pass up on either Rome Odunze or Brock Bowers. I think this is something that could absolutely happen. I'm going to go ahead and choose Rome Odunze for him. And here come the Vikings, which ultimately I think the Vikings are one of the teams that make the move to go up and get the quarterback. But in this case, it's an easy pick. I think that they go with JJ McCarthy, right? So now you got Broncos on the clock, picking at number 12, right? And a lot of people are going to say, well, look, if you take Bo Nix is the 33rd ranked on, PFF's board, and the average draft position that, people have him going on is 29th. So that tells Broncos country, you could move back, which first of all, guys, you can't forget, you have to have somebody willing to trade up. And if it's one of those scenarios where we can accumulate a future first round pick or a really high second rounder this year, maybe I would do it, right? Then I would be like, all right, let's do it, right? Because then at that point, you have a little bit more to work with. If you can double up and get 2 first rounders this year, something like that, like if you get a second and be able to move up, that would be the most ideal scenario. The ideal scenario is that the Broncos are in a position where they make 2 selections on the draft, but it's going to be really difficult to do that, which is why I've always been talking about go out and trade PS2. Because if you can get 2 first round picks this year, you can turn that into Bo Nix and Brock Bowers, or Rome Odunze and JJ McCarthy, or Rome Odunze and Bo Nix. So that would be amazing. But in this particular scenario, if the board fell exactly like this, put me in the camp of take your quarterback. Take if Bo Nix is your guy, take him, right? If he's your guy, take him. I don't want to see a scenario where they go with, oh no, Brock Bowers, let's say, right? And then they try so hard to trade up into the second round or the top of the first round to take Bo Nix. Even if that works, I don't think it sends the right message, because if you really, really loved and committed to a guy, you would have just taken him, right? The commitment aspect, that psychological piece is so important that a lot of you guys are missing. And it's also really risky. Why would you risk that? So I personally would absolutely take Bo Nix here. But if I had to choose another scenario where, let's say, some people think Sean Payton hasn't fallen in love with somebody, he's going to give Stidham and a mid-round guy a pick, and I have to suck it up and deal with it, then Brock Bowers or Byron Murphy or Jerzon Newton or Jared Verse are the only options. So essentially, defensive line or pass rusher or a game-changing tight end in this offense. For the love of God, if they take a cornerback, I can't tell you how furious that I would be. That would be the stupidest thing that the Broncos in the current situation are in can do. By far and away, the dumbest thing is taking another luxury position on a team that's not projected to be good. Just pointless. Cornerbacks do not win you games or help you win games if you're not a good team. But they help you win games and be a much better defense if you're already a very well-rounded team. So we rush the passer fine. We don't stop the run well. So if you're not getting after the quarterback every single time, or if you're not stopping the run consistently, they're not going to be in pass situations often anyways. So your cornerbacks are just going to be hanging out, and it's pointless. It's happening with PS2 already. But anyways, I digress. So this particular situation, I'm taking Bo Nix. But to be fun, I would say go ahead and give me Brock Bowers, because this is somebody, an elite tight end, can not only take this offense to another level, but if you look at all of the Super Bowl winning teams, all of the elite offenses in the NFL, they always have a game changer, typically at the tight end position, especially when playoffs start coming. The short passes, the weather starts getting cold, which guy can get open across the middle. Look at what Sam Laporta has done for the Lions this year, right? Even though he was a third-round pick, he was somebody that is, absolutely a baller. George Kittle, he allows for them to do so many different things offensively. Obviously, the GOAT over there in Travis Kelce. So you just look around the NFL and you say, man, teams that have a elite tight end can make a really, really big splash. I would be fine with like a Byron Murphy, somebody that could be an amazing interior pass rusher, or Jared Verse, who's just a beast getting after the quarterback. I'd be good with that. I do want to take a step back and say, if we took a tackle, right, like a Fashana or Latham, right? Maybe not Latham because he's a right tackle mainly, but if we took a tackle like one of those other Fatanu, one of those guys were available, it would be one of those where in the back of my mind, I would know that it's a really good pick. It's the right thing to do if you're not going to take a quarterback, but it would just really bother me because who really gets that excited about taking a tackle, right? Not me. So anyways, I'm not going to necessarily go past this, but there are situations where if you did want to trade back, right? So I think some trade back candidates for you could be like, let's say the Bengals really want to move up to 12 because they are in love with Brock Bowers, which I could see happening, and you move back to 18, moving back 6 spots is not going to absolutely kill you. Like you could still probably get your quarterback there, and it depends on what you're getting. But like I said, I think for me, first of all, why risk missing out on your quarterback if that's who you love? Or it doesn't send the right message because you can't sit there and say, man, we love Bo Nix. We're thrilled that we got him. He was the number one choice on our board, like they're always going to say. Because if that was the case, you would have taken him at 12. Or you would have moved up a couple spots to ensure that you got him. So you can't really sell that. I don't think it'll necessarily make them not commit to him as much, but it just doesn't, I don't think really send the right message off the cuff. But so that's why I think that if the Broncos ultimately trade out of 12, it's because they never really loved the quarterback that much. And that's fine. If that's the case, that's fine. Move back and do it. But what's not fine, like you have to not have loved any of the quarterbacks or the ones that you love. Like let's say they loved Caleb Williams, but they knew they had zero chance of getting him. Fine. But I don't want a situation where like we loved JJ McCarthy, but he ended up going at 4. So we said, no, be the aggressor and do whatever the hell you need to do to get your guy. That's the most important thing. The draft, everything that I'm doing here, all these players, it's all a gamble, right? You're going to Vegas and you're putting money on black, you're putting money on red, or you're hoping to hit blackjack. That's essentially what you're doing in the draft. So if you're going to gamble, you should always gamble on the quarterback position to try to find him because that's going to be the biggest payout by far and away. Because people will be like, well, if you really screw up on a quarterback, that sets you back even more. Well, if you don't take a quarterback, it still sets you back more. And who's to know that the tight end or the cornerback that you took or the pass rusher that you took is not going to be a bust either, right? If you look back in the draft, I'll stop with the screenshot. If you look back on the draft in 2021, a lot of Broncos fans really wanted the Broncos to take Fields, right? Now, the right move, even in hindsight, the right move really, obviously in hindsight, was to not even take PS2. It was to take, why am I drawing the blank? The beast, homie from Michael Parsons from the Cowboys. That was the original good play. But it was still a mistake, if you think about it, taking PS2 there instead of Justin Fields. And I'll give you reasons why. First of all, Justin Fields at least allows for you to have a commitment to a quarterback, and you're going to give him maybe 2 seasons to see if he works out, right? So the 2 years following it, we've had dog shit quarterback play anyways, right? You're probably not going to hire Hackett because then you're not in this desperate quarterback mindset of, oh, we need to get Aaron Rodgers, so we hire Hackett, and that ends up being a firestorm. And then you don't get Aaron Rodgers, so you're even more desperate. So now you overspent for somebody like Russ. You're trying to just Band-Aid everything because you put yourself in a position where you're desperate for a quarterback. Had you taken Justin Fields, then you would have hired a coach after that season to specifically for Justin Fields. And who knows, maybe it works out. But if it doesn't work out, then the next year you're back in a position where you're picking higher. You're not in this purgatory where you're winning 6 to 9 games a year, the worst thing that you could do. You're back into a position where you're looking at maybe a CJ Stroud like you were last year, instead of just resting on your laurels and not having 2 picks and making your offense worse. So committing to a quarterback is always better because it allows for your team to not act out of desperation in a lot of other ways. So fight me if you want, blow me up in my comments, but taking Pat Surtain over Justin Fields was still a mistake, right? But it was a mistake from a standpoint of your strategy. The way that you view the draft and your draft strategy, it was wrong. It was absolutely wrong. If you're a team that's desperate for a QB, you keep on shooting your shot until you find them. And then from there, you worry about the rest of your team because you have no idea what the hell these guys are going to turn out to be. If they're going to be good fits, if they're not, if they're going to get injured, you have no idea, right? So if you're going to lose, you might as well lose betting on a quarterback. The Broncos are in a great position to do that this year because if they get Bo Nix and they hit, right, or they get JJ McCarthy and they hit, people are like, oh, well, we have such a shitty roster around them. We're going to have over $120 million in cap space next year. We can get a lot of really good vet proven players to build around, kind of like what the Bears have done this year. And then we can also have a lot of draft picks to be able to bring some more potential youth and potential guys that we can hit. So that's my rant. Hope you guys have a great day. Enjoy the rest of it. Appreciate you guys tuning in. A like, a comment, a subscription, man, would be awesome. If you can do any of those, that'd be much appreciated to get these algorithms flowing. Otherwise, y'all have a wonderful rest of your day. A mile high salute to you guys out. Peace out.